division is local. Next division is local business tax. We actually only have one local business tax specialist that handled all of the registrations for the city, and that's professionals and businesses. So you can imagine he's very, very busy. The local business tax is the tax for operating a business or working as a licensed professional within the city limits. We also proactively identify businesses or professionals which do not have a current business tax. This division works really closely with zoning. If there's a permit that comes in for interior renovations, we make sure they have a local business tax. And so there's a lot of coordination within our department to make sure that everyone is in compliance. Next division is our development review division. A lot of people know this in other jurisdictions as current planning. So this division is composed of current planners, development review planners. So the review, this division reviews new development projects to ensure that long-range plans of the city are implemented and that new development adheres to city code and regulations. They work on applications that generally go to the planning board and the city commission, just like site plans, development agreements, rezones, conditional uses, etc. So when there's a public hearing, there's usually something on the agenda that we take care of. This division works with developers, architects, engineers, attorneys, and neighborhood representatives to achieve a balanced integration between new development and the built environment. So even though we do have standards for review for different applications, we do want, a balance within communities, and we do hear from the neighborhoods and from, the community that reaches out to us to be able to come into a compromise and get a project that works for everyone. This is the table of organization that I showed on one of my first slides, and I highlighted the development review division. It's a small division also. It's headed by Kevin McAndrew. Karen Grassett is our permitting tech, and then currently we have 2 development review planners, and we are in the process of hiring a 3rd. And the next division is zoning. So zoning promotes orderly development by reviewing building permits against the zoning code. They answer a lot of questions from the general public. They're usually one of the first point of contacts when someone wants to know what they can do with their property. Additional duties that they have is zoning code confirmation letters. So if you receive confirmation that your property is zoned a certain zone district and just anything that you need confirmed, there's a process for them. They handle that. They also review lot split and boundary adjustment applications. They review temporary activity permits. They even do assignments of street addresses. So it's a little bit of diverse of what they do. And then again, the 2 highlighted spaces there are the zoning division. There's 2 people currently. We are in the process of hiring a 3rd zoning analyst. So we will have a total of 3 zoning analysts. And our next division is tree protection. The city arborists review tree permit applications and development applications for compliance with the City of Sarasota tree ordinance. A permit is required to remove or relocate any tree other than a citrus tree greater than 4 1/2 inches in diameter at rust height in most palm trees. Future amendments are in process. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of what's going on, but we are in the process of updating the tree ordinance. There was a tree advisory committee that was formed a few years ago, about 4 years ago, and they recommended some changes. So we're in the process of getting those changes implemented.
Lucia, is there some significance to 4 1/2 inches as opposed to 4, as opposed to 5?
That is a good question. I'm not sure, actually. Yeah, that is a good question. Yeah, maybe they couldn't decide which one. And then also to add, there is no fee to remove a nuisance species, but a permit is required. So, we try to still make sure that people are in compliance, but, the no fee kind of helps a little bit with those kinds of things.
A real quick question.
Yes.
My son's just having his next door neighbor tore down the house, developers coming in. They took down a pretty good sized tree, and I was told the state allows you to take one tree down. Is that right? Regardless of the size?
No, there is a fairly recent bill that passed where if there's a tree that is, could be a potential harm on a residential property, then you just need an arborist report saying that it's a potential harm and you can remove it. You don't need a tree permit from us. But as far as that goes,
You're not familiar with
I'm
the
not
statement.
familiar
Thank
with
you.
that. Yeah.
We have a question here from somebody online. What is the city doing about 163.045? Does that mean anything to you?
That might be the House bill that I just referred to.
That was what the question is. What was? Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a meeting with Commissioner Einhard Koch to talk about the changes that are being proposed, and we gave our input. The wording is very loose, I would say, and it's really easy for someone to remove a tree and for us to do our work and protect trees. So we are, trying to see if there's any way to not eliminate it, but maybe make it a little bit more, to make it harder for someone to remove a tree.
And may I ask to hold questions to the end if possible? We're a little short on time, so the questions, as we have time, let's wait till the end if we may, please.
Okay. And I'll try to hurry up a little bit. So our tree protection division has 2 arborists, 1 senior arborist and 1 regular arborist. One of our biggest divisions is building and permitting. The permitting technicians are responsible for accepting permit applications, checking them for completeness before they're distributed, and processing permits for issuance. So they're always in contact with the contractors on advancing the permits. The building division staff reviews building plans and provides technical inspections to ensure every building project in the city conforms to the appropriate codes and regulations. And then there's a table of organization for our building division, our permitting division, and that's led by Macy Peeler. And then the next one is our building division, and that's led by our building official, Larry Murphy. And the last division, our newest division, is facilities. And they are basically in charge of the maintenance of most of our city facilities. They also they overview the major repairs that are needed to be done within our buildings to ensure structural and operational integrity of our buildings. And they also provide oversight for all of the city-owned real estate, including land and property leasing, and oversight for the disposal of our obsolete and surplus assets and materials. And they're housed on Central and 8th Street. And there's the table of organizations for facilities, and it's led by Rob Shanley. Development Services staffs 3 advisory boards. We staff the planning board, and the planning board holds hearings and makes recommendations to the city on a variety of development applications. So including site plans, rezones, minor conditional uses, major conditional uses, zoning text amendments to the comp plan, etc. The planning board members are volunteers and are appointed by the city commission to serve 3-year terms. And they are required to be city residents. And generally we have a meeting the second Wednesday of each month starting at 1:30. The Board of Adjustments hears appeals of a determination from the director. They also hear variance applications. They meet the last Wednesday of the month at 1:30 as well. There's 5 members who are also volunteers appointed by the City Commission, and they also serve 3-year terms. And then our last board, the Board of Rules and Appeals, that one is established for the purpose of hearing alternative standards to various model building codes, certifying contractors, denying issuance or renewal of certificates, imposing fines to contractors, and hearing denials of issuance of a building permit. They have 13 board members, and they generally meet once per quarter. So one question that comes up a lot is, how are we doing now that we're coming out of the pandemic? This table here illustrates the first row. I took the permits issued and the development applications that were submitted from March 2019 until March 30th, 2020, right about when we closed. And then the second row are the permits issued and the development applications submitted during the pandemic, essentially from March 2020 until March 2021. You can see that we had more building permits that were issued during the pandemic and slightly less development applications submitted. We were closed, we weren't taking in development applications for a certain time. So I think that's why we have 10 or 11 less, but you can see that our numbers have not been impacted at all. And then the next two rows are just from a short time frame from May 1st, 2018 until July 2nd, 2018, because that's kind of when we opened back up to the public and things got a little bit more normal of this year. So you can see that our numbers also have not really decreased. We have more permits that were submitted during that time frame this year than in 2019 when things were normal. So we haven't really felt any impacts. We have always been open as far as taking in building permits, and we had to change a lot of our systems and our processes, but we were able to manage. So I'm going to talk about a few different projects that we're working on that might be of interest. The first one is our OneStop Shop, and that is the purpose of it is to create a permitting space, an environment where more walkthrough type permits can be processed. So to have everyone in one building. If you need to process a permit, you have everyone there in one place. So it's going to house the Development Services Department, the Utilities Billing Department, the Public Works Engineering Department, Sustainability, a utility engineer, and the majority of the Planning Department. It's going to be located, as outlined in red there, across the street from City Hall on 2nd Street. It's currently used as a parking lot for a lot of our fleet vehicles and employee vehicles. On March of last year, the City Commission directed staff to pursue that site on 2nd Street. So we've been moving forward with the design team who was awarded the contract in August of 2020 to work with them to come up with the design and the configuration for the floor plans. And its anticipated completion date is approximately spring of 2023. The bay, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with it. The north side of the Mangrove Walk is open. I have a picture there of the conceptual master plan showing the entire 53-acre site. Ground is broken on phase 1. The Upland Park portion is expected to open summer of 2022, and the Sunset Boardwalk is expected to open summer of 2023. The preliminary design has also been started for the rest of the phases. The city and county commissioners to each serve on the Bay Park Improvement Board. And then the next slide I have here is just a diagram of phase 1, which has gone through the entitlement process. They received a major conditional use for the Sunset Pier, and then also a site plan for the project itself. And that's about 52 acres of the entire site. And then the Quay is another project that is probably of interest to everyone. The entitlements that the Quay has is 695 residential units total, 175 hotel rooms, 38,972 square feet of office, and 189,050 square feet of commercial. That's the maximum that they have for entitlements. You can see here that number 1 is the Ritz-Carlton residence that is done. So that was the first site plan that was received, and that's 73 residential units and 9,500 square feet of restaurant. Number 2 is a project that's under permitting. It's a Lennar project with 240 multifamily residences and 13,000 square feet of retail on the ground floor. Number 10 is the Beso project. It's a Coulter project, and that has 149 multifamily residences. And those are the only 3 that have been permitted so far. Number 8, 9, 7, 6, 4 are all kind of just conceptual. Still have to go through the site plan process. And then number 3 is a historic Bellhaven, which is now open. Greenpoint, the developer for the Quay, has their offices in there. So it's they've done a really good job, I think, with restoring that building. And then some technology improvements that we have currently been working on. First is e-plans. And we've had a plan to go electronic with our building permits for a while. COVID, I think, kind of sped it up a little bit. So now people are able to submit their plans electronically, which is a huge achievement for us. It's kind of the norm out there, but we were behind the game. Automated inspections also. You don't have to call in to get an inspection now. It's all automated. So that's helped a lot too. We've had that in play for a little while now. Click to fix. I'm sure maybe some of you guys have heard about that. That's a new app that's being developed where you can take a picture and send your complaint to, or if you see something that's wrong, you can send it and it would automatically go to an appropriate department and division to handle it, and then you can track it to see where it's at in the process. Right now, it's still being worked on. There's a few different members of the public that are practicing on it, and we're trying to work on all the kinks. But it should be out to the public hopefully next week. There is going to be a press release, and we'll get the information out. So I think that's going to be just a huge help, I think, to the citizenry and also to us to know what we need to focus on, what we need to fix, and the issues that are out there, since we don't have eyes everywhere. And then the zoning map is another one that we're also improving. We're getting all of our zoning information onto GIS so we can get rid of our Mylar maps, which is it's really an antiquated process that we have going. So I think with that, it's going to help the public access that information and make it a little bit easier to know what you can do on your property. And then this slide here has some contact information for our different divisions. If you ever need to contact anyone, you can use any of these numbers. If you can't figure out who to contact, you can also contact me. I'll leave some of my cards on that table. But if ever in doubt, I really feel comfortable that my staff will help you figure out who you need to contact and what you need to do. And that concludes my presentation.
Lucia, thank you. And I'm afraid, folks, we're not going to be able to take questions. We're trying to do an hour and a half. And I think that was very informative, and there's an opportunity maybe to invite you back at some time and dialogue on some of these questions. But we certainly appreciate talking the direct line to Kevin and sharing some of our growth numbers that we have in mind, and asking to partner with you on the smart, balanced growth with some green in mind and some appropriate funding along the way. We know you're not directly involved in that, but we thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, the presentation is already online. It is linked to the agenda that was sent out again this afternoon as an update. And maybe if we have questions that have come in over the Zoom link or any others come up here, we could compile those and we could send out a letter or email to Lucia with any follow-up questions.
Yes, and Lucia's been really good at responding to those kind of things, so we appreciate that. And again, I'm sorry, we just not enough time to do everything today. So additionally, in new business, we have some new gold associate members.
You want to change the screen here?
Yeah.
So I should try to share.
Okay. Was that pretty visible to everybody, the presentation?
Yes, it was.
Great.
Worked out
Good.
well.
Moving on to the next item of new gold associate members. Do we have those folks in attendance today? CRS Commercial Roofing. Down to earth landscape and irrigation. And Blue Stream Fiber.
I think you had the first one.
Yeah, CRS Roofing here. Absolutely.
Okay, well, we certainly wanted to welcome you and welcome to the organization. Well, thank you for your support. We appreciate it. Toward the end of the meeting, shall we do a little introduction at this point?
Well, this is their time. Whoever's on here from them to speak and tell us just briefly, quickly about. Can you put up?
Absolutely. So do I have the floor? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you guys.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Yep, my name's Chad Leathers. I'm the SVP of CRS Commercial Roofing Specialists. We are exactly that. We handle everything from shingle, tile, mod bit, all your roofing systems, and we would love to just be a part of the community and help in any way we can. So if there's anything you guys need us to do at any of your condo or HOA associations, we'd love to come out and check out the building, see if there is anything you guys might need help with.
Great. Well, welcome to the organization, and we certainly appreciate your support, Chad.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve the gold associate memberships for CRS Commercial Roofing, Down to Earth Landscaping, and Blue Stream Fiber.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, and a big effort on the, Patrick, an update on the status of the annual condo survey. And just a little preamble of thanks and appreciation. This has been a monumental effort that Bob, Sheila, and Patrick have worked relentlessly on. So please give us an update on this really good work.
Yeah, so Bob is not on, and so I'll give a quick update here that we began this back in April, and had a series of dialogues about the questions, and a series of questions, came up with a list of questions, were able to put it into a PDF online form and send that out to our 40 members. And through the diligent work of Bob Trollo and Sheila Tunnell, we got 80% response. So 32 of our 40 members responded, which any kind of survey, getting 80% response is tremendous. The guidelines that we had set out, the board had approved, was that the final report would go to the condos that participate. So those 32 condos, their primary rep will receive the report, and we'll distribute them. Now, again, this report was prepared for our members. It was not prepared to be published publicly. The plan was to be able to take excerpts out, that some summary data, and provide that summary data, because while we have some general information here, when we get into the body of the report there, you have condos reporting on what their annual operating budget is, their reserve budgets, and some of them were reluctant to publish that publicly, but would provide it to be shared among our members. And so that was the caveat. We could look at making it public at some point in the future if we wanted to put a public delay. I wanted to present that and see what the feedback was as to whether to keep it entirely for members only, or to at some point after a certain period of time, or just leave it confidential and just do public summaries of the data. So we want to get some feedback before we publish it all.
My 2 cents is at least initially we have to keep it confidential. I mean, that was a matter of a firm handshake with folks, and I think when this data is so interesting, and particularly in light of recent developments, that it should be a certain additional carrot for some of those non-members, non-participants to choose to participate so they can get this valuable information. So, Peter?
I haven't reviewed the data yet that's up there, but I'm wondering if does any of the data lend itself to easily be aggregated data that we could share without any personal identifiers? And
Yes.
And I would suggest that the Dsca take the public privilege of putting together some aggregate data to allow other condominium associations to at least get a general idea of where they fit within the aggregate data.
I agree with that. My only question is, was it made clear to the participating and non-participating, to all the people who received survey, was it made clear to them that it may be aggregated and made public? Or was it not spoken? Was it made clear? Or was it not made clear? I don't know. There may be other variables in there somewhere. In other words, I really don't want to do something that hasn't been not agreed upon by these participants, but at least understood to be the rules by which they participate.
Well, we did say that we would keep their responses confidential and shared among the other members. However, by taking the composite spreadsheet, which I think we ended up with 94 data elements. So we have a lot of, we can slice and dice. And we've already started doing that. So where we could take information, so we could take the summary, some responses of all those who did respond, aggregate those, and then look at that and say, well, this is the average of the response, but also if it's sufficient enough to then project out across all the units. So if we say we, from those 32 condos, that's some thousands of the units in the aggregate. And if that extends out to across all the units, here would be. So one of the pictures we already took is we took the operating budget, reserve budgets by those condos, looked at what that amount is on an average per unit, and then multiplied that by the total number of units of our in the total Dsca area, and came up with the fact that the condominiums in downtown Sarasota spend over $60 million annually, estimated 50 to 60, maybe more, into the local economy to businesses. I mean, this is hiring staff, this is engaging the contractors, et cetera. So this is money that's going into local economy. It's being paid for by the residents. So one of the things to emphasize is that while we are residents, and unfortunately our development services left, we are businesses who are supporting business.
I understand that. I get my question. It's not so much what the data is or shows, but I want to make sure we're just not breaking faith with the people we sent the survey to. That we didn't tell them anything that we're not doing, or we told them something and we're going in another direction.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, it would.
In other words,
silent.
all those 32
Yeah,
people would not be upset that we've aggregated the data and making it public.
I don't see it.
No,
How they,
I mean, Ted, you were involved in the early discussions around this.
I don't think there would be, you know, it's just like out of the 32, there were X number that had PEPS rules, for example,
Right.
just an X, you know, that said, you know, or whatever they had swimming pools or not. So many had pools. I mean, aggregate numbers like that, I don't think is going to be breaking any confidence. What we were interested in our building was being able to compare our building to buildings of similar ages and size, for example. And that information, I think, is something that we should maintain in confidence, to where I can dig into the data and I can see a building of our age and our size and compare it to other buildings of similar size and age and see how we're doing in relationship. That data, I don't think should be released.
Right, no, that's the individual. But we could take and say of the 40 condos that we have, what is the average age? Or how many are over 35 years, et cetera. So if the city were to adopt or county adopt some inspection thing for buildings over 30 years, this is how many would be affecting and things like that. So I think summary data of that nature is helpful. Right?
very helpful. So, okay.
Okay. So, Kathy,
I guess a couple of questions that I have. Is this survey done on a yearly basis?
this is the first year we've done it.
Okay, it's the first year that we've done it. Is there any harm in, you know, I haven't seen all the data, but is there any harm into asking the people that return the surveys if they would be agreeable to having it open to the public? And now that my other question is, who are we saying the public is?
Well,
Who are, so could you tell me who that means?
we were going to provide this to the 32 condominiums for their use. Now,
Okay.
who among the condo owners they want to distribute that to? but it is marked as confidential, so it is not marked for public distribution.
Okay, all right. So it would be really literally up to the individual condo management teams or the boards to decide whether this information was going to be disseminated to their residents. Is that correct?
Correct. However, it's of such detail that unless a resident is on a board of directors, I doubt that they want to wade through the 26 pages and try and decipher, et cetera, et cetera. It's really a lot of detail. In addition, we have the comprehensive spreadsheet. So our urgent, when I send this out, we'll be sending it to the contact who sent it to us, but with the request that they at least distribute it to their property management and to their board of directors. So I think it would be appropriate for all the board members of each condo to receive a copy of that. And should there be any requests for additional information, then we can deal with that. We recognize as we went through this that some of the questions broke out differently based upon the variety of kinds of buildings and so forth. And so we'll be making some notes of refinements we can make into next year's, assuming we follow up on this. And then in future years, comparing year to year, what's changed, things like that.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, just fantastic work. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, it's really,
Okay.
really detailed and really helpful, and to some extent, really timely. So thank you, Patrick.
Thanks,
moving
Patrick.
on-
One last thing, we did include in the report, we will have in here links to all 20 platinum members individually. So as someone opens up the report, they will be able to go back to that.
Yeah, and I would just make an overarching comment here that this work combined with some of our population estimates and growth estimates all go toward the idea of developing data, developing more information, more facts, and with more facts, hopefully we can be a better assistant to our members and in working with the city. So this is really good stuff. Okay. Yes, Peter.
I don't mean to delay, but I don't see any other place on the agenda to bring up an old business item. Is that appropriate?
Sure.
I saw in the minutes that we were going to support Vicki Oldham's request, and that would have been in last night's city commission, which is postponed. Did we send anything?
Okay, what Ken Sheelan and I agreed, what I hope was okay with the board, during the public comment period of the meeting that wasn't held, I was going to read our motion at the city meeting. And Ken actually thought that was preferable, and I didn't see.
I think it's preferable.
I didn't see any issue with you folks. So
We didn't have
that's,
a look for-
yeah, so we'll have to see when that comes up again. On the city update, Kathy, do you want to kick this off, or we have the update on the Sarasota Orchestra that Roger would help provide? Is there anything you'd like to say, Kathy, about is it in terms of the city?
Actually, no. And to be honest with you, because I'm out of town and for personal reasons, I've been kind of somewhat remiss and slack on being involved in what's going on in the city. However, that being said, I know that there's been a lot going on behind the scenes, and I think that moving on to talk about the orchestra as put forth on the agenda, I think we should just go through with that, and then we can talk about the sound in a bit.
Okay, just as an overview, the orchestra has not been discussed amongst the board before. Is that at least? And we, Roger and I thought that it would be appropriate for some kind of a quick update here on where things stand in the interest of information, not necessarily that we're going to take any position on that. So Roger?
Okay. This has been going on for some time. But I'm going to start 6 months ago. 6 months ago, the CEO of the orchestra in a meeting announced that they would, this summer, the summer of 2021, would announce their new location for the facility in the county, moving from the city. And it's part of their celebration of having been in the city, 75 years. And that was, that created a lot of interest. As a result, the city commission in April voted 4-1 to ask them to consider staying in the city. And so since that time, there have been a news coalition of people interested in keeping it in the city, who have put together some ideas and have interacted at various levels. This group met 3 weeks ago with the orchestra CEO and chair of their planning committee to find out, what they felt about this. And the CEO of the orchestra said they really were focused on leaving the city, and they would consider staying in the city, perhaps only if the city could guarantee there would be no lawsuit about the site that they want, that the location would be in Payne Park with 7 acres, and that the city commission voted 5-0 to have them stay. This is a kind of a tall order. The city is still in negotiations. Let's rephrase that. The city is still meeting with the orchestra. There's meetings planned in the near future. And then I'll just kind of wrap this up by saying, what does this mean? Well, the orchestra is on the verge of becoming a nationally known organization, and has the resources to build an 1,800-seat acoustically outstanding performance hall. And it's also wants to build a 700-seat flexible practice and community music center for local music organizations. It has identified 10 different local music organizations in the city that they would like to use that facility. And they are like the Key Chorale, the choral artist of Sarasota, the Pops Orchestra, the Orchestra, the Artist Series Concerts of Sarasota, Canto, Chamber Orchestra of Sarasota, Guitar Sarasota, Music Sacra of Sarasota, Sarasota Concert Band, Sarasota Jewish Chorale, the Perlman Music Program, Strings Con Rio, the Jazz Club of Sarasota, and local music festivals, which is an amazing array of music within the city of Sarasota. And my closing statement is if they build that out in the county, I could say in the branch, but I won't. This, then to quote an old favorite song, this will be in the music dies in Sarasota.
Well, because my note-taking skills are a little rusty. You said there were 3 criteria in which they would consider staying. One was a 5-0 vote, and then it was vote. Another was no lawsuit liability.
Right.
What was the third?
The acreage they went out of the park.
7
7
acres.
7 acres at Payne.
So let's, I have been involved in this group trying to persuade the orchestra to say, let's just say that we have done a lot, including 50 different drone shots. I've put some examples up on the counter. We have provided some growth numbers on population, et cetera. So the ball's kind of in the city's court, city staff's court at this point in the commission. So we would personally would very much like the orchestra to say, but just wanted to give the board and our members a brief update that things are in still evolving and troubling actually, but let's hope for the best.
Right.
The next item I had on here was the city budget. The city is having a budget workshop next week. They are in kind of round draft 2 of the budgets. There are, in my opinion, I think there are 4 projects of particular interest to our members, and that is streetscape efforts on Boulevard of the Arts, 10th and Main, and then the Rosemary Park build up, shall we say. And without going into detail, I can say that there has been some movement and some funding for some of those projects that wasn't there before. It's probably not adequate, but it's some movement, and I've been trying to meet with each of the commissioners individually to make the case for consideration and using some population information, et cetera. The one thing that time doesn't allow us to go into detail, but I did put in the board package the Impact Fee Act. This is a act that was passed in Tallahassee, signed by the governor, a revision earlier this month. And it has in it requirements for impact fee usage to benefit new users. And I am trying to make the case that more consideration should be given at the city level to fund some of our needs because of our somewhat explosive growth. But workshops next week, as we know, resident input is not allowed at the workshops. So any lobbying we're doing is in advance of them. So let me just leave it at that because I could get in the weeds pretty quickly on this unless somebody has a question. I think those are the 4 projects that we have. There's been a consensus with the board that those are on our priority list, and we're trying to do something about.
So I just want to say thank you, David, for that work, because this is the inner workings of how projects get funded. And sometimes you hear about something, you think it's going fine, and then all of a sudden it doesn't happen. Well, because of funding, and that's where you really have to stay on top of things. And communicating with the director of finance and others at the city administration to let them know that we're still interested and we're still watching.
Yeah, and I did, again, I did include that PowerPoint slide thing that was kind of presenting to ourselves. I mean, it hasn't been, I don't intend to get, or even if you were to allow me, to present that at the city commission, but I think there's some pretty jaw-dropping, compelling information in there about our growth, and all of this information coming together is, I think, starting to get some traction among staff and the city commission. I mean, we are going to grow 30% in population in the next 5 or 6 years, and Lucia kind of validated that by some of the things she was talking about. So let's get ahead of the curve and spend some of that money that our developers have contributed.
I like the graphs that you changed the heading on from COVID to neighborhood growth.
Yeah. So, okay. Anything else on city updates? I don't have anything else I can think of. Committee status reports. Jamie is not here. Is somebody?
Kristen was going to handle that a week, right?
Jamie got held up at work.
Come over here so I can hear you.
Sure. So I have her notes here. Right here, is this fine?
Sure.
Closer?
I think you're showing on the camera.
All right. They don't want to see me, but they can hear me. Okay, so just a wrap up of our June 16th webinar on emergency powers. We had 4 of our management companies that are platinum members represent, and then our silver member, Norton Hammersley, Derek McGinnis, he moderated. We had about, I think, upwards of 40 people, so really well. So that's the wrap up on that. We have decided on a date for the associate member planning meeting for 2022, which is going to be the 16th. And our platinum associate member CBiz Insurance will be hosting it at their office right here downtown. So
16th of July.
Yes. So there we will be discussing plans for 2022. And to that end, I have to say kudos to the board, the Dsca board, who has made our associate level memberships very valuable and given us a lot of benefits this year. So I can't think of anything to add for next year. It's been so great, but I'm sure we'll have a lot of feedback next week. And then we've also chosen a date of October 13th for our in-person Platinum Associate Member Forum. I don't know if we call it a forum, our educational event.
Yep.
So I don't know if Jamie put a note in here. She's not sure if the board needed to vote on that date. But I'm sure that the topic needs to be discussed. So we've submitted a couple of topics and are just waiting for that so that I can go out and get panelists, unless it's already been voted on.
Well, I thought the original plan was that this was focused on the association management. Was that, or was there a change to the?
Well, I feel like because we highlighted them in the emergency powers, we were looking to do an Ask the Attorney session, but that's up for discussion on what you would like to talk about. We could talk about building maintenance as well. It's kind of a relevant topic. And then the only notes that she put in there about venues for our October 13 event is that prices have gone up, so we're discussing where to hold the event. And that's pretty much it.
Yes, with everybody coming off COVID and wanting to do events, hotel ballroom prices are shooting high.
Could you send me a quick note?
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Now, David, there is the question coming up that we can discuss next week with the associate members, but with the questions arising here about building maintenance, building inspections, is that the type of topic where we would just do a focused workshop and around that, or make that the big fall event? So that's kind of the question on the table here. Do we keep our original association management, Ask the Attorney, and deal with building inspection as a separate, smaller workshop, or make that the event with the associate members with their vendor tables? That's the key difference, is that, how many of the associate members would be displaying based upon the topic for that. So that's kind of the open question.
I mean, my instinct would be to do the latter, to do that give our associate members an opportunity at a bigger event. Between now and October, a lot of things are going to partially evolve on the Surfside incident, and maybe it would be opportune after the kind of slow summer, and things begin to become a little bit more known or unknown. That might, seems to me to be a potentially opportune time to do it, but that's just me. Would you see some more urgency in doing the workshop sooner?
Well, let me phrase it this way, and I'm only reacting to the board of Condo and to the residents, and that is, can you assure us that our building is sound? It was built in the same year as the one that fell down. And we're all pretty confident that it is, but I think we're about to spend money on engineers and so forth. So the interest on this right now, because of this disaster, is really high.
Well, I just don't think you can do a session, given the current events, on building maintenance and responsibilities and inspections absent of attorneys. So I'm not sure you couldn't combine these two fairly easily and do one with attorneys and building engineers, inspections, rules. I mean, I looked at very quickly the 176 pages of the condominium statute. It's pretty weak when it comes to any kind of direct statement on building maintenance, other than talks pretty specifically around reserves and the responsibilities of the board to maintain the property. But it seems to be almost from a fiscal point of view rather than a safety point.
I would agree with. I agree with Peter. I agree. I think that why could they not be combined? I think they kind of go hand in hand and have attorneys present.
Okay. So part of the question was waiting till October. That's only 3 months out. Yeah. Is that still going to be timely? Certainly, will there be more known information coming out of the Surfside results, et cetera, their engineering folks are down there looking over stuff. I don't guess it'll be anything final, but at least it will be a fuller set of causes and effects and things like that. But in general, the question that was being asked is my building okay? I know I received a call just last week from our condo rep and saying, are we going to be discussing it? And I said, yes, we'll be discussing it. He was kind of like feeling he wanted to see some information sooner, but maybe as a way through a series of emails and things like that, we can give building owners here's some background, here's some checklists, here's some things. I know some of our property management companies have already been outreaching kind of with some of those checklists, and so maybe in preparation for that. So
Yeah, and if I may, we were just in a private meeting today with some legislative reps. I mean, this is going to affect our statutes, regulations for reserve studies, to your point, Peter. We've hosted a webinar with insurance attorneys. We're doing another one. I've seen one come out. I think First Service is also doing one. So there's a lot of education starting to come out, which is really good. So.
Okay. Any other suggestions from especially any of our property management companies or other associates here?
Mr. York is the engineer in the room. So I would point to him, but I would say that it's a hot topic. And I think it has to be, approached very judiciously in terms of, the folks you have on the panel. It's very important that you have an engineer and that you have an attorney and that you're receiving advice, because frankly, there's a lot of hysteria in the state. And I think you really got to go back to the facts and you got to go to the experts. So those would be, my points there.
Yeah, when we had recently planned out the cycle of events for the year, and we're planning this one in the fall, it was to kind of coincide with the fact that a lot of boards are in the process of either they're finalizing their budgets for FY22, or if their budgets begin in like March or April, then they're preparing for that. And so this could be timely in terms of, how much do you set aside for inspections and of what level, what type? There's a whole big difference between somebody that just does a reserve study of how many systems you have, how old are they, and what's the cost of repairing them, versus a structural inspection. So that's
my inclination is to give as much information as we can as soon as possible, as reasonably soon. I think whatever happened on the east coast of Florida with that building collapse, I don't want to say it's immaterial because I don't want to diminish it, but it's got its own peculiar situation. It could be rebars. Now they're talking about that caused the weakness. So if we wait even a reasonable amount of time for any results of that, I think we're going to be waiting forever because every situation is unique. So I think what we have to do is get the experts, get the engineers, get the construction people, get the lawyers, whoever's appropriate into the room and say, here's the issue on a large scale. Here's what you have to be looking at. Here's what you have to do, if anything, because you may have your own problems. But in broad strokes, this is what you have to deal with. So I think waiting would not be in our interest, in any.
Well, I know from our past experience of trying to do events, usually plan them out where once we started contacting the hotel, it's 3 to 6 months out. So 3 months out is the bare minimum to put on an event. We got to get it organized, get the speakers, put together the flyers, make the announcements, getting sign up, etc. So yes, it's going to take us 3 months.
I think
to do it well.
Reasonable. I think that's.
And if we get an announcement out, and people say, okay, let's plan for that. So the other question is, we've done daytime events that are usually 3 or 4 hours over luncheon, and then we've done more evening events starting at 4:45 and go to 6:30 with a little bit of refreshments and hors d'oeuvres. Have you thought of which way we're going to go with this one? Is this more evening?
Personally, I think the evening atmosphere works for both the sponsors as well as, people that might still be working to attend.
Is there more availability though for venue if we went during the daytime, if we would want to do this sooner?
Depends on the number of attendees we expect. Some of them have to close down to accommodate at words of 200, 250. They might have to shut down their entire area to accommodate that. Others have plenty of space, so that really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Right, and there's different places available now than there used to be, so going back out and trying to find the right venue and compare it to the size and the cost. Certainly, if we do an evening session where we're not paying for a lunch, that opens up, reduces our cost. At the same time, the hotel is looking for higher food and beverage minimums. So it could be a lot of hors d'oeuvres for a couple hours.
Well, I guess my point in bringing that up is if we're looking at, if time, we feel like that we want this to be more timely and to do it sooner rather than later, maybe that should be, we should just take a look at what's available, most cost effective, and then make it work.
Okay,
So require a motion?
Other than we had scheduled previously, but reporting to the board of status, unless there's any objection, the events committee moves forward, right?
all right, thank you. Next, I guess, is green space.
Nothing.
Okay, and homeless.
No, I have no report. Yes, I have no report.
Okay, health and safety, we had the surcharge, and it seems to me we've kind of addressed that.
No, we have a motion, we have a press release to discuss.
Oh, that's right. Excuse me. Did those, Patrick had circulated a press release related to a statement, shall we say, a press release from us. Did you folks have a chance to take a look at that?
Didn't see it. That was sent.
It was in the board packet.
Oh, it's in the packet.
Okay.
That was a
42 page PDF, right? Index, just scroll through it.
Which one? It's not in today.
This was not a board packet today. Yesterday was the board packet for the board members. Today was a reminder. Here's the agenda and a few other things. So,
I apologize.
yes, we've been flooding email boxes.
What do you suggest? It's about 4 or 5 paragraphs to read, or kick the can? What, or circulate, or recirculate it and ask people to
Just react.
I mean, clearly, we don't have a formal date yet, but we could say that we will be announcing the event for discussions here within, soon. It talks about there in the last paragraph. Plan to host a roundtable forum on multi-unit residential building maintenance inspection. So it doesn't really give a date there. If there's anything further we want to update on. But
yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. And again, Patrick, as far as precedent on this, do we?
Well, it's just information that we're putting out, based on what our plans are. It's precedent.
Okay, well then, that between Patrick, Jamie, and I.
and if anyone has any edits, please send your edits to David and myself, and we'll get this out in the next couple of days.
Yep, let's do that. I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Something somewhat formal. Transportation Committee, Roger?
How come I get all the fun stuff? I'm gonna talk about traffic changes and pedestrians, and I'm focusing on our Gulf Stream and US 41 roundabout, because that's the most exciting thing going on at the moment. Let me start with traffic changes. And the reason I'm starting with traffic changes is that they're scheduled to occur around the 1st of August. So that's 3 weeks from now. And let me start with the detours that will occur. And the detours are for through traffic on US 41, north and south. For example, if you're coming from the airport southbound, and you wish to go to Marina Jacks or to Selby Garden, you will make it as far as Fruitville, in which you will be detoured to US 301, and then to Mound. Now, if you know the city, you'll take some shortcuts, but that's the official detour for southbound, if you want to go down to Costco. If you're northbound, coming up from Costco, northbound traffic on US 41 will be detoured at Mound to 301. And you will take 301 to Fruitville, make a left turn, and come down to 41. So that means more south traffic. Now for us locals.
So this is an FDOT plan, because those are all state highways.
That's, well, see, that's an FDOT plan, but I'm giving you the official. The unofficial is I always turn
I'm
a
taking
coconut or, it's no big deal. But let me continue. The more fun will be if you wish to go to the barrier islands. So let us say we are coming south again from the airport to US 41, headed westbound to Golden Gate Point, Sunset Drive, Bird Key, and the islands. You make a right turn Gulf Stream, and off you go. You just can't go straight. Very simple.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, me to say. Traffic northbound, you know, you're coming from Selby or Marina Jack. Traffic northbound on US 41 headed westbound, again to Golden Gate, the barrier islands, will make a left turn onto Gulf Stream, but the highway will be relocated next to the parking lot at Marina Jack's, so that you will be on the left side going out, making the turn, and then there's a crossover to put you back on the right side by Sunset. No problem.
This is a diversion.
Double diamond.
Yeah, this is a piece of a diamond. Yes, I would go with that.
Call Roger.
Now, I hope that no one is here from Golden Gate, but westbound traffic on Gulf Stream will not be permitted to turn left into Golden Gate Point. You will need to cross the bridge, do a U-turn at Bird Key traffic light, and come back where you can make a right turn. Okay?
Does that mean you won't be able to swing under the bridge and come back out? Oh, sorry.
And you can't,
Nobody knows.
and you can't turn into Sunset either, because I live there and that's legitimate. Okay. Well, this is fun. Continuing. If you're a pedestrian and you live in what I call Cedar Point, but it's the south northwest corner between Gulf Street and 41, where the view, the Ritz, and so forth. Well, we walk downtown. We cross at the Hawk Lights at Ritz Drive and First Street. That will be removed around the 1st of August. And so we will get to walk either to Fruitville or to Maine in order to get past the construction.
How you gonna get to Maine?
Turns out for where I live, it's only an additional 100 yards. But if you live in Dubuque or you're at the Weston, you got maybe a half mile further hike.
How's the view gonna get across Gulf Stream to get to Maine?
It's Sunset. At Sunset, yeah, that's close. You come up to Sunset, cross there at the light, and then walk down along the bay.
Alan, you're getting close now.
Well, and let me finish by saying, why the hell are we doing all this? Well, this organization for the last 10 years has supported the construction of the roundabouts and continues to do so because it improves traffic flow. Longboat, you get a 40 to 50% improvement.
I wonder if I get to show I wasn't on the board in this place.
Well, I'm sorry you came too late. Because I was on the board and I've been promoted for 10 years. It improves vehicle and pedestrian safety rather significantly. And pedestrian safety, I'm really and traffic noise is significantly reduced at a roundabout, and he will testify to this.
Okay, all right. How long is this supposed to be?
This is, you got a year of this, hang on.
A year, Roger.
I was told that this was gonna, this changes that you just talked about are gonna be finished by sometime in February.
Oh, yeah, this is gonna be like 3 or 4 months, and they're gonna construct major pieces of the roundup. They're gonna take the stoplight out, at Gulfstream and 41, 1st of September.
I mean, by February or March, we're gonna be back to normal.
No.
But
But stay tuned for my report.
Yeah, we can put out more email flash notices.
Okay.
as the next
All right,
number comes out.
thank you, Roger. And folks, we're running a little late. No, I'm not, I'm just saying, Alan, on the EV charge, do you have any updates for there? Okay, and zoning code committee, Drew, are you with us today? No, okay. One thing that has been a topic of conversation has been the sound ordinance situation. And obviously there's been a fair bit of traffic about that matter. And the Kathy and I have had conversations, Patrick and so forth, and we have come with a motion for consideration today. And let me just read that. Move that the Dsca Board of Directors supports a discussion among similar associations and organizations concerning the management of ambient sound throughout the city of Sarasota. And we are willing and able to be a participant in that conversation. Patrick has already done some, we've been doing some informal engagement with DSA and DID. I believe there may be another meeting of some interested parties coming up. Discussion on
Well,
this.
I can report, when we had some discussion amongst the zoning committee that David and I and Kathy and Drew had discussed this. One was to break down the various facets. Certainly there was the road noise that FDOT tried to, has done work on, put signs out there, don't rev your engines. There was the noise on Palm Avenue emanating from Artivation, and that was affecting Marina Tower, mostly Bay Plaza. I think there's been some dialogues and some resolution, but out of that came the issue that the how the police can better measure so that in fact they can enforce. And there was some movement by the city attorney to draft some changes that might reflect that. And then in the process, there was a whole series of just public emails and postings on neighborhood and everywhere else. And one of these other postings was done by Chantel Norman, and she had a couple thousand respondents there. And the essence of that was, don't take away music downtown. And I spoke to Chantel. I've known her for probably 5 or 6 years. She works for Visit Sarasota. She's also lead singer in her own band. She's performed on the streets out here and at various events. Is a very strong fixture in the music scene as well as the entertainment, both on a general level, working with Visit Sarasota, then on a personal level. She was assisting the Bayfront 2020 when it was transitioning before the Bay Park took over. She was the administrator for that, helping support Virginia Haley and Michael Klauber when they were leading it. So she is well known within the business and entertainment community here, as well as the management, administration, et cetera. So I felt like she has been a part of this. She's had to get event permits. She knows the rules left and right. And she was very open that she just wanted to be able to continue to perform. She recognizes that certain areas where especially the infill, like Ms. Panica was talking about, the development services, they've been very successful in bringing infill. We've doubled the population in the downtown area in the last 6 years. So, and we're going to add another few thousand more. So we have more people living here, and what do we do about music, et cetera, and other events there? And so she was very open to sitting down and having a discussion, initially internal, with small groups, before going in front of the city commission. I said, And I think Peter, you brought this up in the past when there was that revision of the sound ordinance some, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years ago. There was some conflict, and even DSCA's membership suffered in that. And so we want to approach this in a much more mutually acceptable way and get the issues out there. And it may just come down to, mitigation as to, what is the rules and how is it enforced and how are people informed? So our residents, know, yeah, this is allowable and this is not. So they're not, complaining about things that are permitted, so to speak. And so that's part of getting information out. So, anyone else on the board here? We got another question.
I would just comment on there were 3 proposed resolutions. I also support the second one. I just had a 1-word to actual change that I just suggest. I don't know if it's material or not. It reads that the Dsca supports a discussion among similar associations. I would just add the word supports participating in a discussion among similar, rather than just saying, yeah, we're okay with it. We're saying we're in, not leadership, but we're in, we'll participate. So that's just a suggested amendment to that resolution if it's voted on.
Well, I think that's a good, friendly modification. I think one of the things that there is some concern on is that Downtown Sarasota Condominium Association be seen as chairing the meeting or facilitating it, because we want to be an active and constructive participant for a balanced outcome. But it would be inappropriate for us to, shall we say, lead that effort. But we will participate actively. I will participate actively and try and come up with some balanced solution. I think Patrick's outreach to the entertainment, shall we say, side of things is a potentially really positive event. So
I would only suggest that much like now, 1 word, I would strike the word similar. It's an adjective, it's limiting and it's restrictive.
Yeah.
A similar association.
Yeah. Okay. So then how would it read?
Just associations and organizations.
Consider. Okay, is that everybody okay with that?
Kathy, any?
I am, and I just have one follow-up question for you, Patrick. When you talked with Chantel, was she aware? I mean, obviously she was aware. Did she have any reaction to some of the responses she was getting on her petition? As I read through them, there's just such a misconception of what this is all about. And I'm quite taken aback by some of it, actually. I think it highlights the importance more than ever that we need to have a discussion, a civilized discussion between, people that live in the city of Sarasota, because it's not a us versus them kind of a thing. I will say she did do an update recently. Apparently she thought there was going to be a meeting last night, and she invited people to just come and speak. I don't know what that would have looked like or sounded like if she would have actually had that happen. I know that there were some people that were planning attending in support of her. So I think that she is becoming a key piece in this discussion. And I'm wondering, where did you leave off with her as to how open is she to sitting down and being a part of this now that she has this following?
Well, she's very open. Like
Okay, good.
We left a call that I would get back to her with a suggested date, time, and location to meet. And so as a follow-up to this, I'll get back with you and David and see who needs to be. I think an initial small group meeting, she suggested 1 or 2 business owners that she knows, and some of the representatives who've been actively involved here. And so David, myself, Kathy, are you gonna be back in town any time?
I don't know that I'll be back within the next 2 weeks. So that's kind of a fluid situation, but I do think that there is a group that's organizing to pull together a discussion. And, you know, I could reach back out to them and ask if it would be worth having her participate in that. So if I'll get back to you on that and let you know.
All right. So on this motion, shall we, somebody make a motion to? Okay, may I move to?
Well, if you're the chair, so it's, instead of you handing up the gavel, I'll go ahead and make the motion to move that the DSCA Board of Directors supports participation in a discussion among associations and organizations concerning the management of ambient sound throughout the city of Sarasota. That's the motion.
I'll second.
I second it.
Motion.
Any further discussion?
Discussion?
Comments? I'm sorry, Cheryl.
Yes.
Sorry, we didn't go too far.
No, I'm just here as an observer, but I just wanted to comment really basically what Kathy said is that first of all, the residents are very much affected by all of these special events, but I completely agree and believe there is a lot of common ground. So I hope that, and I'm very pleased to hear that this person who's gotten all these signatures is open to having a dialogue, because we should really seek that together. The residents that I know of aren't opposed to special events, but would like to see some parameters around those special events. For example, how frequently, how long in duration, and how late. But special events can be enjoyed by the residents as well as good for business and everything else. So let's try to find this common ground. And it is rather, alarming that there are 2,000 people who might not realize the consequences of a petition that they've signed. So let's try to be reasonable on both sides of this issue.
Yeah. Anyone else comment? Okay, through on that one. At the vote.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Moving along. Bay Park Conservancy. Anything on that, Bob? You're right. I'm not aware of anything on that. The next item. CCNA survey. In your packet was something from Lou Costa and CCNA. I learned of this just a couple days ago. CCNA has been asked, apparently, to provide input into an update of the city's strategic plan. And Ted and I talked about this today. I just learned I talked to Pat Robinson a few hours ago, and to figure out who was on staff was heading this up. And is it Laura Wittenbaum? Am I saying that correctly? She is apparently it's not David Smith in the planning department. I'm not.
I know there's a Laura in the planning department. I know about last night.
But apparently she is coordinating this. Ted, can you help with any details on this as our CCNA rep?
I'll tell you, I was at the last CCNA meeting was on the 5th of June, and they now are on break until September 11th. And it was not even brought up at the meeting on the 6th, on the 5th of June. So, I got the survey from Lou about 3 or 4 days ago. I really don't, like I told you, David, earlier today, when something that's supposed to be strategical and last for so long, why are they hurrying up and want their responses back so soon before we have time to adequately discuss it, especially you all on the board? You're the ones who ought to be making the response. I'm just a representative, and I take whatever you guys want me to take back to the CCNA.
Well, Patrick and Ted, I have a suggestion. I am willing to try and consolidate input from members of the board and try and see if there's a commonality on answering those questions, and pretty quickly kind of turning that around to see if a consensus emerges or not on that.
I just don't know. Are they asking all of the other 40-some neighborhood associations do the same thing?
It was unclear to me, and Lou seemed to feel that it was, that they have a consultant, the city has a consultant working on this. And he was going to be presenting to the city commission relatively soon. Now, I don't know.
Is this gonna be tied into the budget?
I can't.
I mean, this could be significant, and they're asking for short, such a short turnaround.
So I'm willing to look at you folks, your 2 cents in literally answering the survey, and I will try and consolidate this into something coherent for us to talk further about. Okay. Does that work? I don't know what else to do at this point. Okay. As far as the Rosemary District Association, really nothing to report there. Already done. And then,
Yeah.
yes.
I had a couple things from that meeting that I wanted to report. The county commissioner, the county administrator, Jonathan Lewis, was speaker for that meeting on the 5th of June. He made a couple of interesting comments. Number one, the Legacy Trail End in Payne Park is supposed to be done by the end of this year, which is, I think, is very good for downtown. Also, even though it's not in our downtown area, the USA, or the National BMX Center, is going to be having their national tournament here out on this across from Ed Smith Park. And other than that, also they're having, there's a lot of progress being made on 17th Street Park, which will affect, will take some of the pressure off of Payne Park, which we have is getting more and more use as it goes along. And if we take 7 acres out for the symphony, they can replace a lot of that use back out the 17th Street Park, which is going to be amazing. Also, the Regional Fire Academy is going to be moved, which is something we're going to lose out of town. And it's going to be moved into Knight's Trail. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Moving along then, some Platinum Associate news highlights. It's customary on this to ask our members with updates and new news, more or less, that they would like to share. And help me with this, Kristen. Would you help kind of MC this portion, this important portion?
Absolutely.
Of our meeting?
And just to reiterate, we are doing the new thing. So if you don't have anything new, that's what we're doing today, myself included. And I'll send some example today, but I can't see Patrick, who's on, who's Platinum members that are with us. And see, okay, let's start with him and let's go backwards. He has to unmute him, so I'll wait. Actually, we won't go backwards then, because we'll do our Zoom people in a minute. Oh, he heard me. All right, let's go ahead and start with Michael York with Forge Engineering. Can I go?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Michael York with Forge Engineering. I'm the Director of Business Development. We are a local forensic engineering firm. I thank you guys for letting us speak here tonight, but we specialize in association work only, high-rise, mid-rise condominiums, anything from reserve and turnover studies to owner's authorized representative projects. And we also, for a long time, but as more recently due to the events, perform structural condition assessments for all of the buildings. So we've been in flux with those, but I do appreciate the opportunity to serve all of your associations. Thank you very much for letting us be here tonight.
Michael, and let's bring up First Service Residential.
Hello, Jake House with First Service Residential. We're so glad to be back that we brought be back in person. Takes us back to the days over at the Ritz-Carlton when we had wine and hors d'oeuvres and cheese. It seems like so long ago, but anyways, Jake House with First Service Residential. Just touching on what Michael said with structural integrity. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we're going to have a webinar with a number of professionals on there. So if anyone's interested in that, happy to pass along that information. But again, Jake House with First Service Residential, and we manage a number of condominiums here in downtown Sarasota.
And just a reminder, Jake, it'd be great if you could post that on the DSCA website and
Sure.
make educational so that our community can access that. And then let's go ahead on our screen here. Can we go with, I see James Toll with Tannenbaum Scrub.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. Jim Toll from Tannenbaum, Scroll, Lamole, and Kleinberg. The only thing I have to report, well, first of all, we are a boutique law firm. We only do construction law, primarily representing owners, which means condo associations or homeowners associations. We do have a panel discussion coming up. It will be a live event. It'll be at Marina Jack on July 20th. And the topic will be repair and renovation. The focus will be on permitting and licensing. There'll be some permitting authorities, not from the city, but from the county at this one. But again, there'll be some similarities and some crossover. So if you are interested in that, and again, I guess we'll post it up on the website, or you can reach out to Michelle Colburn at our office. Thank you.
Yeah, and I also see Patricia Stabler with Stabler Appraisal.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us. Stabler Appraisal is providing insurance appraisals and reserve studies. And over the past couple of days, we were bombarded with reserve study requests. It must be because of what happened down south. So it's an incredible, tragic which happened there. And reserve study is one step to prevent items like this from happening. And it will be a very sad reminder for all of us in the future. Again, thanks for having us, and I'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. And I don't see any other one of our members online. So unless you tell me different, Patrick, I'll go next. Core Marketing, I have a group of professionals that I represent. What's new is obviously in our industry, we've been hit really hard with the tragedy from Surfside. So we are also doing these live discussions at the Sarasota Yacht Club on the 28th. We will have a panel discussion. Forge Engineering is one of the panels, CBIZ Insurance, and in sponsorship there will be Right Way Emergency Services and Professional Plumbing. But they won't be on the panel discussion, but we're also doing a webinar on the 12th. If you can't make it live, you can tune in. I believe that is posted on the Dsca website. So you can go there for a link to the webinar. We are also, again, doing that in Lakewood Ranch. If you don't want to wait till the 28th, we'll be live there at the Grove. And that is going to be on the 13th. And Jane, I believe you'll be speaking there. So we'll have a management perspective at all those events as well. So again, Core Marketing, thank you for having us here. And that's what's new in my neck of the woods. I think that's it.
Just as a quick follow-up, there are no events showing on the associate member events page. If you will send out a notice for all these events here, they should be on the page so people can find them and link to them. And we send out a link with our next news flash to those pages. So.
Okay, I'll make sure, I'll text her right now, make sure she gets that on.
Okay. I guess this is time for any member representatives. Are there any further comments?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sue Lair with Embassy House. Dennis Moran is joining me with the reps. Peter, I wanted to thank you for helping us with our suspicious person policy, which we now have crafted. And the only other comment is we filled out the survey, but there were the way in which the questions were styled were awkward for responses. So we weren't able to answer a number of the questions. So I'd like to be able to give some feedback and perhaps suggestions for the next iteration. And we might even be able to answer some more of the questions if we could tweak the wording a little bit.
Sure.
Understand. Yeah, that would be very helpful.
That would be helpful.
So secondary thing is, it was great, the help you guys gave us on the EV stuff. We went out, we talked to Sue Gentile over here at Revo and talked to the folks at 1350. Super people, gave us lots of information, gave us enough information where we didn't have to walk through everything over again, right? Kind of get a jump on things and helped us make some good decisions going forward. So I really appreciate you.
Anything else? And how did this go, folks? This is our first, this Zoom thing work, okay?
It did, it really did.
You can hear us?
Okay.
Yes,
so the-
and actually the way the table was set out with you guys being centered and speakers off to the side, it was great. My only thing would be, you know, the lighting in the room with the light, but that's nothing, there's nothing you could do about that.
Okay, all right, so we'll be back here at the mark, August 4th. I think,
Will we finally have the beer and wine?
wait, it's back there right now. It's back there right now. We get the beer and wine here for folks. Sorry, Zoomers. You'll
Yeah,
have to-
don't have too much fun.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, but thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time. I know we ran a few minutes over, but I think hopefully worth it. Take care.
Thank you.
You're adjourned. Thank you all.
Okay, bye. Congratulations.